Well, welcome to Tips on Handling the Holidays After Loss. I'm Alan Pedersen, the Executive Director of the Compassionate Friends, and I am joined today by two very dear friends of mine, Dr. Gloria Horsley and Dr. Heidi Horsley. Ladies, thanks for helping to put this together and being a part of this very much needed.
Dr. Gloria Horsley, and what a privilege it is to be with our brand new Executive Director of the Compassionate Friends. He is such a person that has been so loved for so long and has done so much for the organization. We are so happy to be able to work with him and to be able to present this webinar to you, because we know from our own experience, all three of us, we've been through it. We've been there. We know what you're going through, and our hearts are with you. And we, especially during this time of year, want you to know that you don't walk alone on your journey.
I agree, and this is Heidi, and I want to say to all of the siblings that my heart goes out to you and all the bereaved parents. You know, like my mom said and like Alan has said, this is a very, very hard time, and we all certainly remember, especially early on after Scott and Ashley and Sean died, how difficult it was. So we are going to give you some tips for surviving during the holidays and talk to you about things that worked for us. And also, if you have any questions, please let us know, and we'll answer those.
Absolutely. We'll answer them during the show. And when we go to we're going to go to our next slide right now, and wanted to show you a picture of our loved ones, because those pictures are so important this time of year and keeping their memory alive. Well, on the left is my son, Scott. And Alan, do you want to talk about the other two folks there?
Well, we, it's personal for us. We do this work, and we love our organizations that we work with. But in the beginning, for all of us, it goes back to having walked this journey ourselves. And my daughter, Ashley Marie Pedersen, was killed in an automobile accident in August of 2001. And my wife's son, Sean, died in an automobile accident in September of 2004. And so while we're talking about this subject today, we're living this subject as well as the holidays roll around once again. How do we survive, and how do we walk through difficult pit about these beautiful children in our lives who we miss so much?
I just want to say that I do this in memory of my brother Scott, and I do it in memory of all the siblings out there who have died before their time, and as a tribute to all of the bereaved siblings.
Yeah, well, as Alan said, the holidays are a bittersweet time. And Alan, I'm looking at our first slide because we're talking about holidays bring back so many memories of our loved ones. And you are such a great singer. Can you talk about songs and smell and tradition?
Well, it's funny. I got my start in this grief world as a songwriter. I've been doing that my whole life, and that's what most people know me for, is music. But, the holiday season, I was somebody who, especially early on, had a difficult time with music. And, when you're going through that first year, and, you can't avoid it. You be home for Christmas starts playing, and, you just want to fall to your knees and scream. And there's power in music. Do we grieve harder during the holidays? And I think that we grieve the same all the time. The holidays just bring up so many things that trigger and remind us of what we have lost, that's what makes them so difficult. And it is bittersweet. And there can be sweet times, but I think especially early in grief, all we think about is what we've lost. Don't you guys agree with that?
Absolutely do. And I think one of the hardest things about the holidays, and I'm thinking about Christmas specifically, is getting out those Christmas tree ornaments because they are so steeped in memory. And I'm just thinking the first time I picked up that big green Christmas bulb with Scott's name on it, and I knew he had made that. And there's so many bulbs on our tree that we've made and that represent our family and represent our brothers and sisters who have died and our children. It's really emotional.
Right, and I'm sure for many people, I've run a Compassionate Friends group in the Bay Area, and one of the people came and said, they weren't sure what to do. It's their very first holiday without their son. And I said, well, you need to think about it, because the first year, we'll be talking about it a little later on, but it's going through that first. If you don't get him out this year, you're going to have to get him next year, or you're probably going to want to, you know.
These holidays are so important for us. And even that when our siblings are gone, we still want to have them. And it's really, really hard on kids when their parents don't want to have the holidays. So finding a way to have the holidays and maybe paying tribute to the person that died, but still having the holidays, even though I know it's going to be hard.
Yeah, and we'll give you some tips later on in the show about that. And Alan, what about these people that say you should have a happy holiday because your loved one would want you to?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that sounds good, doesn't it? It's like a lot of things in grief, you know. We should move on. We should be over it. You know, they're not practical. And like we say here on the handout, these are intellectual things. And people like to intellectualize grief. They like to spiritualize grief and intellectualize grief, but that doesn't help. You know, when you're going through the holidays that first year, if you can breathe, you're having a successful holiday sometimes. And sometimes it's just taking that breath. And so, you know, I encourage people just to begin to look at it like, I don't know what you can handle. It was very difficult for me. I didn't put up a Christmas tree that first year. And, you know, and I look back and think, well, you know, I should have, if I would have been tuned into my boys, maybe I would have. As Heidi, you know, always helps us to remember about the siblings. But it's very difficult, and you just wade your way through it and take it one thing at a time. Maybe you can put one ornament up this year. Maybe you can put 5 up. I don't know what you can do. But taking the expectations off yourself and not worrying about the expectations of others helps. You're going to get through this holiday season any way you can. You're going to cope any way you can, and whatever works for you works for you.
Well,
Right.
Alan, I just want to add something to that. You know, parents are always saying to me, I feel like I didn't do enough. I feel like I was so involved in my own grief that I didn't do enough for my kids. And I work with kids and have for many, many years. And the siblings are saying, you know what, we know our parents are grieving, and we know that they did the best that they could. So this holiday, I'm hoping that the bereaved parents will try not to be so hard on themselves, because we know that we're all going through a lot.
Yeah. I gave my kids cash. That's what I did. I took them to the mall. I said, here's some cash. Just enjoy yourselves. And, you know, it's what I had to do that first year. And actually, they kind of liked it. And now they still want cash. So I guess I started something there. I shouldn't have started.
Cash isn't bad, Alan. Cash isn't bad.
The mall, that's a hard thing. Walking, you know, by the stores and being out with people, and you see things, and that yearning and searching. Do you remember the yearning and searching, where you're looking for them all the time? You see a blonde head, you follow them. I know you talked about following somebody to the subway or something.
So, you know, I knew Scott was gone, and I would still, for years, think that I saw him and get really excited for a second, and then run up and realize it wasn't him, and then I'm not going to see him again. He's not here.
Yeah.
There is that. You know, we talk about grief, and people say, well, you know, your son died, or your daughter died, or your husband or your wife died, and you're missing them. But what people don't realize, we're also grieving the life that we had, and so we get part of who we are, traditions that we had done years and years and years and years, and now something that was so incredibly fun and joyous to do, now to have the thought of that just be almost sickening and painful, that's very difficult to deal with as well. So we grieve for our child who's gone, but we also grieve that those things that we loved, we can't find the joy in them. So it just hits us, it's so multifaceted and hits us in so many levels. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I do. And we just got a comment from Kathy. And she says, this year when we went to pick out our ornaments, it hurt so much, but we decided to hang the angel that was made with it. Still very hard. Yeah. Oh, isn't that true? Some of our things do break and get lost and wear out. And well, let's go on and talk about some of the tasks of grieving during the holidays. Well, I think of grief as being work. To me, it's about grief work. I don't know. What's your thought? How do you know?
Well, I remember being in my bathrobe until like 4 in the afternoon and saying, I haven't done anything today. And I remember somebody else that had lost a sibling saying, Heidi, you've done a lot. That's what you've done the work of grief. It's an emotional, physical, and psychological assault to your system. It takes a lot of energy.
I agree, and and we're looking at the slide now that talks about in early grief. And I know so many of the people who are listening in today and who will be listening in the future, some of them are facing their first holidays, maybe their second. I think we had somebody who referred to it being their third, and they thought their second would be the hardest. We understand this, and I think in the early years, the early tasks, you really are going through the motion, and I agree. It just feels like work, and it seems like everything in your holiday is centered around the person who has died. And I remember my first Thanksgiving, going to that Thanksgiving dinner, and in my family they decided to have an empty chair, a space there and a place setting for Ashley. And, it was meant to be, to recognize her and honor her. But, oh, my gosh, to just look at that empty chair was just so hard. And so I found myself that entire day, I was so exhausted after that dinner that from the time I got up, I was, really faking it as best I could because I didn't want to ruin everybody else's holiday. So it is tremendously taxing and work in early grief. And there are some things that we do have to do. We do have other children or other things that are work-related that we have to do. But at work, we are going through the motions. We don't often feel anything called in early grief.
Well, especially the early grief of that very first year. I say during the first year, you've got to live it. That's all you can do. You've got to live it. You are going to live it. You're going to live through it, and you are going to live through it. I mean, I remember thinking, I'm not going to live. Mm-hmm. And that was part of the reason I liked Compassionate Friends, and I liked people going to the funeral. I'm saying I've lost a child, and not saying more than that, because I looked at him and thought I actually might live. Mm-hmm. And I don't think people realize who haven't lost a child how traumatic
like you said, Mom, sometimes the pain, even with the sibling loss, the pain is so great that you do feel like you're going to die of a broken heart. I mean, you can read about pain all you want, but until you've experienced this level, you really don't understand how strong it feels and how significant it is.
Well, I like something that you say, Heidi, too, about pain. You can really only know the pain you've had, the pain that's knocked you down, that's knocked you out, that's knocked your world. I mean, you can empathize, and it's great. And I worked as a clinical nurse specialist in a hospital before Scott was killed, and I had worked with families. That was my job. I worked on a burn unit. I worked with families in the intensive care unit. I was a consultant to them. I did family therapy with them. And until it happened to me, I had no idea what they were going through. I think I was helpful and supportive, but I honestly had no idea. Did you, Alan?
No, and something that I think is common for a lot of people, but for me especially, I would also have such anxiety about the day coming up. And especially early on, I was like, how am I going to survive Christmas Day? What am I going to do? And so not only, the anxiety sometimes can make the days before worse than the actual day itself. And I hear people saying that now, my gosh, this is my third holidays, and the anxiety already settling in. So I think that's very common, don't you, that the anxiety, how am I going to survive,
Right. Yeah, the anxiety is almost worse than the day. I wanted to just do another question from Teresa. She says, Christmas seems to be getting worse. It's been 2 years. It's just us at home. What do we do, Teresa? That makes me feel like she's saying 2 years, that this may be their second Christmas. And I want to tell you, Teresa, that I have people call me in the second year and say, I think I'm going crazy. Somebody just recently did and came back to our Compassionate Friends group, and she said, I thought I was doing better. I'm getting worse. And I said to her, Marjorie, let me tell you something. You're actually getting better. You're actually moving through grief. The problem is that you're thawed out that first year. You're frozen that first year, and now you're thawing out, and you feel more feelings, and your body and mind can take in more. So sometimes it can feel worse, and you just got to hang in. someone said to me in Compassionate Friends group that the first year you grieve for your child and the second year you grieve for yourself. So, hang in, Teresa. And what do you do if you're alone? I think that if you don't have any other children, I hope that you will look into a program. What's the name of the program, Alan, for people who...
Alive Alone.
Yeah, Alive Alone.
Alive Alone.
Fabulous. And they might tell you about some people in your area, because I know people get together sometimes at Alive Alone. Our friend Rick Yachty, who is a parent with no living children, and he got together with different parents with no living children during some holidays, and at least they plan to get together once a year. And we thought for Teresa,
I think that whether it's the second or third year, I think these are hard years because the reality sets in. The reality of this is my life, and it's really hard to wrap your arms around. I think the idea that you're on this earth not going to physically see them again, that for me was one of the hardest pieces of the grief process.
And, I know the therapy world says that you should try to, the first year, hold things together and do things as much as you can, the same way. The second year, would be a time when you might want to make some real modification to your holiday and think about changing it. It's a little late now because we're getting close to it. But, next year you might want to think. We actually went to Hawaii. I think, was it the second year after Scott died, Heidi?
It was the second year, and I was more than happy to do that because there were just too many reminders at home. Everywhere I turned, I was reminded of how much I missed Scott. So for me, going to a place he'd never been was what I needed. But like Alan said earlier, everybody's different, and some will want to go away and some will want to stay home. I don't know. Alan, what are your thoughts about this?
Well, I find it interesting because in my studies, and I've met tens of thousands of bereaved parents, I'll meet just as many people who will come up to me and say, Alan, I keep my holiday traditions just the same. And they find comfort in having those same holiday traditions. And just as many people will come up and say, Alan, I cannot do my old traditions. I have to do different things. And one thing I think about the second year, as you get into the third year, I agree with Gloria. This is the time to maybe start experimenting a little bit, tweaking things. I was thinking, where could I drive to within an hour of my house that I just thought would be a complete escape? I drove to the casino. I went inside. I sat down and looked around and nearly got sick to my stomach, walked out the door, and drove home. But it was my attempt to try to say, okay, what am I going to do on Christmas Day? What am I going to do to try to, to either not maybe distract myself at that time or to try a new tradition? And throughout the years, we've tried lots of things. Some didn't work, but some did work. We started a new Christmas Eve tradition that really works well. So it's the time where you begin to say, okay, in my own unique grief journey, what can I do? Maybe I'll tweak it, try something different. What can I hold on to that worked for us in the past? And it's kind of a trial and error thing. But I think each of us has to find what works for us and be a little creative in that process. And it's okay to try things that don't work.
And I think later grief is really important because later grief is beyond, for me it's been 30 years and, it's beyond. And I want to talk a little bit about that. But first, let's take this question. It says, I'm going on my 5th Christmas and my waves started the week before Thanksgiving and I am alone. I don't leave the house. To me, I see it getting harder and more emotional. Heidi, do you have a thought on that? It's been 5 years, 5 Christmases.
I would just say that, like I said before, sometimes, grieve people and myself. One of the downsides of getting further away from the day the person died and you never saw them again was you're that much further away from the day you never saw them again. So that part can be really hard. I guess what I would say to the person that wrote in, I'm trying to figure out who it is. Okay, Pam. I really, really hope that Pam is reaching out to other bereaved parents, and I'm really glad she's here tonight because I don't want her to feel like she's alone and has nobody that understands what she's going through. Compassionate Friends was a godsend for me, so I'm hoping that she'll reach out. Mom, do you have any other thoughts about this?
I think that if Pam hasn't been to Compassionate Friends, you can go even if it's been 5 years.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I go and it's 30 years, and we still have some camaraderie. And I would suggest also that it might be a time for you to reach out and help with Compassionate Friends. We're always looking for people to help run the chapters and just help put the books out and put the chairs around. And when you start doing that, after 5 years, you start hearing other people's stories and realize how far you've come. And what's your thought on that, Alan?
Well, I would really like to say to Pam, first of all, thank you for that question, because I think, obviously I love the Compassionate Friends as an organization, but I believe in us. And the reason I believe what we do is so important is because when you get to the 5-year mark, anybody in the outside world is going to think that you're nuts if you are struggling and really struggling during the holidays. But inside the Compassionate Friends, you're going to meet people who absolutely understand that. The 5-year mark for me was brutal, because we're trying to get you through the first year. But the 5-year mark can be very difficult. And when you're in the Compassionate Friends, or you've got a family around you of support, regardless whether it's the Compassionate Friends, but others who have experienced this loss, we understand that it can hurt really, really bad at the 5-year mark. Today, I'm 12 years down the road. I love Christmas once again, but I will tell you, I was out doing this work and helping people, but at the 5-year mark, I still could not hardly stand Christmas. So I say that so that others understand it's a long journey. This loss is a lifelong journey. And because you feel that way now at 5 years, doesn't mean you will always feel that way, Pam, but you feel that way right now. And to recognize that you feel that way, I agree, one of the greatest things we can do is to reach out and help somebody else. And when you have a mother who doesn't have a child to buy a gift for a child who doesn't have a mother to receive a gift from, I would encourage you to reach out for that in your help, and in turn that will help you. It's one of the greatest gifts we give ourselves in grief, is reaching out and helping somebody.
And also, I think, Pam, it's normal, blindsided by all the reminders you have during the holidays, which will remind you of your child. So to try to be really compassionate with yourself right now as well.
So I wanted to also talk about what happens with later grief. You really do have more control of your emotions, in that as time goes on, it's not that you do from high school or things that your child didn't get to do, but also you recover faster. And you'll notice that. Have you found that, Heidi? And
I have, but I'm reading something. I'm sorry. I'm reading a question which kind of which kind of piggybacks on what Pam just said, and I think that's why Kathy wrote it. She said she started helping after the 5th-year mark. That's when she started to reach out, and it's been 15 years, and now she helps lead a Compassionate Friends chapter in her area.
Oh, okay. Well, let me say, just put in a little plug for the Open to Hope Foundation, too. If you go to opentohope.com, you will find 5,000 articles, radio shows with Heidi and I. You'll see Alan on television shows that we've done. We're going to be putting a show we just did with him at the candle lighting online. So with the Internet and with Facebook and all that kind of thing, we don't want you to stay home by yourself all the time, but there is some connection at those bad times in the night or whatever. But I still think you need human touch and human community.
Well, Mom, I think that's a great thing to bring up. Grief often can be 24/7, and sometimes our grief is most intense when everybody else is asleep and when no one else is around, and we're looking out the window saying, am I all alone out there? Does anyone else know what I'm going through? And that's the time to go to Open to Hope and to connect with an Internet community, as my mom said, so that you feel that you're not alone, that you're not going crazy, and that others have been there and made it. So we're there 24/7 for you.
And by the way, we're not just children. We're also for lots of parents and spouses and that kind of thing.
I just want to say that, what I love about Open to Hope, too, is that, not everybody grieves, like you say, at 7 o'clock on the third Thursday of every month. Some people it's 2 a.m. on a Sunday, or it's on a holiday, and the rest of the world's kind of closed. And I just love that somebody in the privacy of their own home can go and find good grief articles, good television, good radio to help them. And that's part of what Heidi said, taking care of yourself. And when you have those times and you just feel you're all alone, plug into an article or watch a TV program and hear somebody else who is walking the journey with you. It does help, and it is part of taking care of yourself, to reach out and get good grief information and share the journey with others.
So I want to talk a little about holiday survival tips, because the first one I would like to take this because it's one of my favorite tips, and that is let people know early. If you're not going to do some things that you were going to do on Christmas, it's a week from now, tell them now. And they'll probably be mad because you're not going to come to their house, you're not going to do the evening thing, or maybe you're send the kids with somebody else or something, but you just can't handle it, and you just have to tell them. I call it get a hall pass. When you were in school and your teacher gave you a hall pass to go see to the restroom or go do something else, give yourself a hall pass this year.
But Mom, can I ask
take
something?
care of your kids.
What if I don't know until the very last minute that I can't make it? I mean, what if at the very last minute I say, I can't do this?
Well, if you're there right now thinking I may not be able to do it, tell them that you'll try to make it, and the truth is that you're not sure if you'll be able to.
I like that.
Let me give you a big
Al
system. In my early years, I would tell people, look, I don't know how I'm going to feel next Thursday night. If you absolutely have to know and you're going to order me a dinner, I'm going to probably say no because I don't know whether I'll be able to handle it. If you're okay with me seeing how I feel that day and coming if I feel up to it and not, put me down. But it's very difficult for us because we get anxiety about a party or anything. I used to tell people also, do not invite me to your holiday event if Ashley is not invited, because I cannot go and pretend that I'm not the daughter of an 18-year-old who was killed in a car accident and that this is my first holidays or my second holidays or my third holidays without them. But it is very difficult. We don't want to be rude to people, and sometimes we do want to be a part of things. So I'd always offer that flexibility to people. And the other thing I'm going to throw in here before I forget it is always drive your own car if possible.
I like that, yeah.
Because you get stuck with somebody, you get stuck at a party and somebody, that's very difficult because we can get hit with those rushes of grief where we literally got to walk out of the room or just walk away. So drive your own vehicle. And then I say as a last resort, if you've got to get out of a place, you can always say that you have the flu. Now, this was a good one. My first holidays, I had the flu 13 times. 13 times. But, you just say that, and I'm telling you, people will let you go. They go, oh, no, you better leave. You mention the word diarrhea, they will kick you out of the party. So, you just got to be open and honest. We're bereaved folks. And so you just kind of double over your stomach if you can't handle the party.
But Alan, it's so true, and it's so true, and it's so interesting.
Truthfully, it is very painful when we're at a party and nobody mentions our child's name.
Or our spouses, or our parents, yeah.
Yeah, and we're not strong enough to say, to just, start talking about it, and we can feel lonely and we can feel more grief. So part of taking care of ourselves is having a plan and a strategy for these holidays, and being able to say no, like it also says on these tips. So,
well, I think that also you need to remember, your kids. Heidi, I put in a thing for the spouses. Make sure when you're not sure that you can stay at an event that you have somebody else to take the kids home or whatever, so they can stay if they want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Because everybody's going to be on a different page. So, and some people are going to want to stay, some people are going to want to leave.
And the other thing you can do is to get people to help you do your holiday shopping, and also you can match up a favorite person with one of your children, a favorite aunt, and say, would you kind of watch over Robbie this year, and take him to get presents, and kind of watch if he needs to leave the event, and that works pretty well.
Absolutely.
And
So
we're going to talk about that right now.
Okay, let's talk about finding a new holiday normal. Wow, I think that's what we're talking about. What's going to be, what's going to work for us when we're in such pain? I think Winston Churchill said it best, when in hell, keep walking.
The idea of finding a new holiday normal, it's a new holiday normal because the holidays are going to be different. They're going to change and transform and be different. That doesn't mean to say that eventually they might not be, they're eventually going to be times of joy, but they will not be the same as they were when your loved one was here.
Yeah, and this is where that creativity I was talking about earlier really works. She had lost her only son, and they were, of course, just as close could be. And she tried different things, and then one year she decided her son was an amazing gift giver. And so what she decided to do is, on her birthday and holidays and Christmas and all that, she would go out and buy these incredible gifts for herself from her son, wrap it up, put it under the tree, put a card in there signed by him. Now, that was her thing, but it helped her. She said, you have no idea how this helped me. And she said, I would try to tune into my son and think, what would he be buying me this year? What's new and wonderful that he would want his mom to have? But that was something different, but it began to be her tradition, and it did help her stay connected to her son on birthdays and holidays. So, there's an idea.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Heidi, if you got one you want to bring up, because I want to do the toast one. It's the very last one on this, and because I love the toast one, and we did it at Thanksgiving, and it was so wonderful.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it was so great. We had, well, I'll tell you, there's a piece that Heidi's given us too, but we had a toast, and I was trying to think of I think my husband gave it. He gave a toast to Scott, and then he gave a toast to my son-in-law's father, who died this year, to John Barris Sr., and then he gave a toast to all our family members.
I wasn't there, so I didn't know that, but I love that. That's great.
It was just so inclusive. It felt so good to have everybody included. So, if you can find somebody at your event, I wouldn't have done it. I didn't want to do it, but Phil wanted to do it. So, it hurt. I just was not, made me a little sad. I want to put it that way. And it didn't make him a little sad. So I find somebody who can toast your loved one that's not there when you're at an event, and ask them to do it in advance. I asked him to do it earlier, so that it was more of a spontaneous thing at the table. So that really was a lovely thing. And sometimes it's very painful when you know you're going out to a holiday party. Either that they're not going to mention your child, or people are going to be maybe not knowing about it or whatever. One of the things that Heidi and I like to do is have a rose and put it in a vase and have it sitting reminding us of Scott, and kind of having a little thought about him or a word before we go to an event. So you might think of something. Do you have something special you do, Alan?
Well, a couple of things. I have some purple Christmas ornaments. My daughter Ashley's favorite color was purple, so Denise has gotten me some cool ones that we put up. Denise works with her artist. We've traveled around the country for 10 years, and this artist began making personalized Christmas ornaments for families, and so hundreds, I guess thousands now across the country have gotten these ornaments from Denise, and I've learned how really special that is, and they'll say missing you at Christmas and have the name of their child or their loved one on there. But I think incorporating our children who have died into Christmas and into our ornaments, along with our living children, and that's what we learn in time about our loved one who has died and about our loss. I think as we walk down the road, we learn to blend the life we have today and these holidays that we want to celebrate with our friends and family with our loss, and we bring them both together, and we learn to do that in a way that the holidays are bittersweet, but there's certainly sweet along with the bitter now, where there was just mostly bitter and very little sweet in those early years.
Right. Heidi, did you see a comment that someone made? I was trying to look at it
Yeah,
online.
somebody said, Joanne, my family does a grab bag. We now always do it in memory of my son Thomas.
Oh,
I love that idea, doing a
love
grab
it.
bag.
Really fun.
That is
Yeah,
such a good idea.
I like
Joanne,
this.
I might take that idea. That's a really good idea and use it this year.
Earlier on, we had some ideas about decorating a wreath.
Wreath. And then put my brother things, for example, something jet, total athlete, football, baseball catcher. So putting these things, it's kind of a fun thing. And if you have other kids in the house, they can help you to decorate it. That's one of my favorite things to do.
That's neat. And yeah, saving things. What a fun thing to do. And you could put pictures on it too.
I remember the first time my son at the Thanksgiving table, and at the head of the table was a giant picture of my brother. and I'm laughing now because he was kind of stunned. He was like, "What's your brother's picture doing there?" I go, "Well, we're paying tribute to him and honoring him as we eat Thanksgiving." So I love that we did that. And the other thing I want to say for you, the parents that are listening tonight, is once a child dies, it's totally normal to have a lot of pictures of them in the house. And that's a beautiful thing. But the one thing I hear from bereaved siblings every single day is there are many more pictures of my brother or sister that died than they do of me. And we are counting.
It's a process of learning to take, what was once a physical and an emotional relationship, and to incorporate, now that it's just an emotional relationship, to incorporate that into our lives and live our lives. And when I speak and play for groups, grief groups, I often talk about, living a life bereaved and what it costs. And but what I think the rest of the world doesn't understand about those of us that are in grief and walking this journey is that the love didn't die because the person we love died. In fact, the love is alive and well. It's inside of our hearts right now, each and every one of us. That love is still alive, and it needs to be expressed, to be fully expressed, for us to begin to find healing. And I think part of that new normal is saying, well, how can I continue to express my love for Ashley in a world telling me to get over it, but it's something that I need to do, and in doing that, keep a balance in my life to let other people in my life know that they're important and that I love them too. And it's kind of a dance, and it's kind of a, it's our own painting. It's our own journey. I always tell people you kind of got to be the CEO of your grief journey, the captain of your grief ship, and figure out, how am I going to do that? How am I going to keep Ashley alive in my life and still, do all the other things that I need to do? And it is a learning process that can take many years, but it certainly can be done.
Yeah, and for those who've lost parents and, spouses and that kind of thing, we're, as I said, kind of hitting on the grief of a child, but it's the same kind of griefs and with different problems and different issues. But sometimes life does go on, and life and loss go together, and there's no question. And I remember thinking that everything just kind of went into a black hole. All my grief, everything was kind of in one huge black hole area. And I think over time I've gotten it more sorted out and figured out the different parts of life, and now the sky's beautiful and sunny and wonderful. So that's over many years. So I don't know, what's your thought, Heidi?
I think for me, one of the biggest challenges was something that we've all said tonight: how to continue bonds with Scott in a new and different way and reinvest in other relationships. And it is a process, like we've all said tonight. And what really, really helped me is to lean on others and look at others that were further along the road, because I needed to see examples of people that were making it. those were my lifelines early on, because I didn't know how I was going to survive, and I didn't know if I wanted to. And those people that have been there, been where I had been, and had not only survived but had learned how to thrive again, were my lifelines.
Well, there's one thing I will say now that I would not have said years ago is that I'm a better person because I knew Scott. Mm-hmm. And I had him in my life, and I am grateful for Scott during this holiday season and for the impact that he has had on my life, and the journey that I've had going through the loss and the understanding of what really life's about and what's important, and all the love that's out there, and it's all about love, I think.
And all the amazing people that we've met, like Alan, and all the other people that are in the Compassionate Friends, all the amazing people that we've met in our journey.
Absolutely. Alan, what have you got to say?
Well, I just want to, make sure that how appreciative I am of these opportunities where we get to talk to grieving folks, and because it takes us back to remember when we were walking through those early days, and we were talking about a new normal. I think our friend Dr. Lynn Prashant describes this the best. Now, the shock is worn off, and we get that we can't have that life back. But also the life we're going to have, this new normal and this blending of things, that life is not yet formed. And so we're kind of in between, and I think that's the scary place where a lot of us, a lot of people listening in today may be, and the holidays just accentuate that. So that question earlier about not only finding a new holiday normal, but a new normal for life is very accurate. And we don't have the answers for how long you're going to be in that grief wonderland where you can't go back to what you had and the life you're going to have is not yet formed. And that is where that word hope is so important, because that's why being around people who have walked this journey, who you can look to and say, if you could make it 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, and like you said earlier, Gloria, and you're still living, then maybe I can survive this and can live through this. But it's scary and it's difficult this time of year. And so my heart just goes out to those of you who are early on in your grief. I've been there. I understand it. Keep breathing. Tell your story.
Drink a lot of water.
Take care of yourself. Drink a lot of water. I would love to have everybody come and spend the weekend with folks who get it, and to spend the weekend with your child, your grandchild, your brother, your sister. It's July 11th through the 13th in Chicago, Illinois. It's going to be a tremendous conference this year. You ladies will both be there.
The interesting part is, Alan, it's on my brother Scott's birthday, so it's very appropriate.
We're going to have a toast. We're going to have a toast to Scott.
Absolutely.
I can assure you of that.
We'll never forget our loved ones, as they will always be in our hearts. The holidays are a time that our memories will continue to connect us with those who have made us who we are today.
That's beautiful. Well, Alan, do you want to close the show for us? And do you want to tell people how they can access this webinar and tell their friends about it, right?
Well, I'm going to tell you that we posted on the Facebook page of the Compassionate Friends USA. There's a link on there, and that is how they can access it. But I thank everyone for being a part of it today, and you're going to find some joy in this holiday season if you look for it. And I just hope that everybody gets through this holiday season. I thank you so much for being a part of this webinar, and I thank the two of you, my co-hostesses with the mostesses. That doesn't even make sense.
Thank you, Alan and Gloria, and everybody that joined us tonight. And you can visit us, as my mom said, at opentohope.com, and we are there for you 24/7.
And thank you all for listening to the show and watching the show. And please tell everybody about the show. And from me, God bless you, and have a peaceful holiday